Okay, so next we're gonna start cleaning the oil pan. Basically, you can, same process, you just use a razor blades, and you want to make sure you get all these big chunks out of the way first. Actually, you can just use your hand, it's probably easier sometimes, and then just scrape them off, you know. Actually, after I get all of these bigger pieces out, I have an angle grinder, and that's what I'm going to use to get this really smooth. But if you don't have an air compressor and an angle grinder, you can just keep going at it with this, and it might take a little bit longer, but you'll get it clean. Okay, and if you do have an angle grinder, you want to make sure you don't use a sanding disc. You want to use one of these soft pads that are made for just removing minor corrosion and whatnot, okay? You know what, actually we're going to remove this this bolt here. You know, to drain this, we remove the smaller bolt that screws into this bigger nut, I guess, and in the back there's another nut that's holding it in. So we're actually gonna remove both these guys, both these nuts, and because I have a feeling you're supposed to apply a gasket maker around them because they might leak, because there's also a washer here. But anyway, we're gonna open them up and see what we got there. Okay. There's a washer here, and there is some RTV silicone. Yeah, it's best to separate these guys and reapply RTV silicone. I'm gonna clean these up and apply some silicone gasket maker, and then tighten them back up. Okay. Oh, and also after you finish grinding, you need to thoroughly clean the inside of this oil pan. You don't want any of this residue that came off from your grinder or your angle grinder or whatnot and to get into your transmission ever, okay? Okay, now to put these back on, we're just going to apply our RTV silicone to both sides of these washers, and you know, they go on this way, this from the other side, and this way. And also I'm going to put some RTV silicone on the threads of this bolt, okay? Okay, and if you're wondering, I'm using ultra gray RTV silicone for this procedure, and okay, and also going to put some on the threads for this bolt, okay? And put these together. I'm gonna put it through here, and it should stay in place while we put the other washer in, okay? Alright. I don't know the torque spec for this, but you only really need to go crazy with the torque because you will warp the washers and damage them, and then you'll get a leak anyway. Okay. Wipe off the excess from around the washer, especially the one on the inside. Okay, so before we put our oil pan back on here, you want to remember to put your filter back on. Obviously you want to lube the O-ring up, and also these two pins, one here, one back here, that lock this into place. You want to lube them up so they go in place easy. Okay, there's one, and there's the other one. Now our filter is locked in place and we're ready to start putting our pan back on here. Okay, now here's our new oil pan gasket, and we've got a bit of a dilemma. You know, these guys obviously use RTV silicone, but generally speaking, you don't have to use RTV silicone. You shouldn't have to. This gasket should do its job. But while I was looking online, trying to look for a torque spec for the bolts in this pan, I read a bunch of posts, people with PT Cruisers saying they had a leak when they didn't use any RTV silicone, and it only stopped leaking when they used RTV silicone. In addition to that, when this oil pan gasket came, there was a note with it that said all these pans, at the factory they use RTV silicone on these oil pan gaskets, and it recommended using it. So I guess I don't really want to do this job again, so I guess we're gonna have to use it. I'm not gonna go really thick on it, but still gonna use it. The way I'm gonna do is put RTV silicone here, just using my finger. Just do a thin layer, just stay to the middle of the oil pan, to the edge, and the outer edge and the middle, and put our oil pan gasket on there. Make sure it sticks to in place. All these holes are open, and then put a thin layer on the bottom of the transmission, and then go and slap this on there. The only thing is, when using ultra gray silicone gasket maker, you don't have a whole lot of time. You need to move quickly. You have about 5 minutes to apply it to the transmission, and then attach this to the transmission. Anything more than 5-6 minutes, you're kind of your silicone might not work as well as it should. Okay. Also, don't forget to put your magnet back in here. All right. Okay, so before we apply our gasket maker to the transmission set, you want to make sure you wipe it off of any transmission fluid, otherwise it's not gonna stick. And then you start applying your RTV silicone. A thin layer is fine. Make sure you go around every bolt hole though. Okay, now we are ready to put our paint on here, and once you put this on there, you want to make sure you put it as even as you can. You don't want to move it around that much once you put it on here, because I guess, alright, what is this? We've got a bit of a problem here, don't we? So this oil pan is fighting us. Why? Why are you fighting us, oil pan? You suck. And our oil pan has decided not to cooperate. Okay, so as you guys just witnessed, we were not able to get this pan on there, and I think I know why. This pan bolt is what gets in the way. Basically, your filter attaches to the transmission with these two pins. These click into place and hold your filter into the transmission. And the problem is, there's not enough room here to put on your oil pan. And I even took after I was able to luckily get the pan gasket off and get all the silicone material, wipe all the silicone stuff off, RTV silicone from the transmission side, and on top of this, then I went back just like this, try to fit everything in, see, taking my time and everything. And I guess there might be a way you can put it on there, but you can't put it on there with this already clicked into place. You might be able to just put this into place and then leave these loose, and then once you get the pan on there, try to wiggle wiggle the pan, and then click these two into place. But or you can just put it in place like this. Just leave this out and put it in place like this, rest it against that, and then, well, you put this on the transmission, these two, and then since this is in this position, it's pushed up a little bit. There's enough clearance where you can put your pan on there. But this is probably why we were getting that code for the, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was something about the pump not priming or something, which is probably, this is at an angle, and this is the way it was when we took out our oil pan. So this is at an angle, so it's sucking air sometimes through here, especially if you're a little low on transmission fluid. And also, this could also be a reason why PT Cruisers are known to have a lot of transmission issues. I don't know if this is a factory pan. I don't know what's going on with this, but if someone's more familiar with these, they can maybe leave a comment. But I'm curious. But anyway, to solve our problem, so we had to go get a new gasket, which is not too bad. It's $10 for a new filter and gasket, and a new transmission pan with a drain bolt on the bottom, where it should be, and enough clearance here. Also, don't forget to transfer your magnet over, because you're gonna need that. So yeah, basically we're just gonna do everything again with, as far as RTV silicone goes. Make sure you clean your the transmission, the mating surface on the transmission well, and I'm not gonna get that on camera again, but I'll show you when it's time to put this pan back on there. Okay, now take 2 of our oil pan installation attempt. The way I'm going to install is, well, we're going to put 2 bolts in right across from each other, and they are going to hold this in place. We want to start from the center out and work our way outwards. That means one here, one back here, one here, back here, crisscross pattern. But it's important that these stay a little loose, so that if there's any wiggling required to fit in all the bolts, you can do that. Actually, we're gonna make sure every bolt can fit through before we start tightening it down. Okay, so still, every time you put in something, make sure it's a couple of turns before it tightens up. Okay. And keep going in a crisscross pattern. Alright, from the center out. Okay, so with all the bolts in place, actually I was using my ratchet just to make it go easier, make them go in easier. I wasn't tightening them at all. But now we can torque them down to foot-pounds, and we're going to do the same pattern, starting from here and then in a crisscross manner. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is actually just gonna wait for this to dry, and actually I'm gonna leave it to dry overnight, so I'll make sure when I go put transmission fluid I don't get any of the RTV silicone residue and stuff in the transmission fluid. Okay. Hey, what's up guys? So it's the next day, and so now we are, well, actually I've already added the transmission oil, but now you can add your transmission fluid. Transmission fluid you'll need for this car is going to be an ATF +4, which is an fully synthetic automatic transmission fluid. And from what I was told from at the parts store, most Chrysler made transmissions from 2000 and newer use this transmission fluid, but don't take my word for it. Double check your repair manual, your car manual, to make sure. And the way I added fluid was basically we took out about 4 quarts, maybe a little over 4 quarts when I did the oil pan gasket replacement. So I added about 2.5, 3 quarts. Then I started the car, then checked the fluid level, which you can do using this transmission fluid dipstick. And you got 2 scales on this. At the bottom you got for the cold, and here, and you got, this is for hot. Okay, so when you're first starting, you check it on the cold side, obviously. Then you just keep adding fluid. You get in your car and you know, start the shifter in park, then move down the gears to drive, neutral, reverse, down, all the way down, waiting about 10 seconds on each gear. Then back up, waiting again a little bit at each gear. Then you do your measurements again, and then you keep adding until you get to the right amount. Okay, and also but once the car is fully warmed up, you want to do your final measurement when it's hot, because you get the most accurate reading when it's hot, because there's only a certain temperature, only you know, it's only gonna get so hot. You know, your car is not designed to let the temperature just keep rising and the transmission fluid just keep rising. But when you start at cold and then you work your way up, you know, no one knows exactly what cold is. Cold could be when you start here in a minute. Cold could be somewhere else, or in like 5 minutes it could be in between cold and hot. So that's why you want to do your measurement at hot, so you get the most accurate reading there. Okay, so I think that should cover everything. If I missed something, don't hesitate to leave a comment or suggestions below this video. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.